I was in a homeless shelter for 30 plus days, and I am here today because I would like to tell you all about my experience, okay? In the most recent video that I made, it was a continuation of the video called Turn of Events, and I will have both of those videos linked down below so you all can kind of follow this story in sequence. In the video that I made a few days ago, I was telling you all about basically how I ended up getting to the shelter. And how the lady left me stranded and all of the good stuff, okay? But again, if you want to see that video, and I'd actually suggest that you watch that video before you watch this one, because this will be in continuation of that video. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jasmine. I chose to quit my job last year, leave my apartment in February of this year, and enter into this new phase of life. And I'm currently on a journey of homelessness. At this particular time, I do not have stable housing. I am a citizen of heaven and I do have stable housing there with the Lord. But as the Bible says, we are all sojourners here, okay? We are not permanent residents anyway. But ultimately, I am striving for more stable housing. So just a little bit of background for those of you who are new and for those of you who've been here for quite some time and you were unaware. As a child, we only moved one time. I actually grew up in a trailer. The first trailer that I was in, it was sitting on like an acre and a half of land, and I was there until I was about 10 years old. And then we ended up moving to another side of town in another trailer on about 2.5 acres of land. And that is basically where I continued to, grow and everything. And I left and went off to college from there. I say all that to say my upbringing and my living situation specifically has always been stable. Okay, you guys, please, please, please understand that, because that is going to play a huge part in, my experience here with the shelter. I have moved a few times as a young adult, just, changing jobs, moving to different cities, and really just figuring out ultimately where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So as a young adult, I moved quite often in my early 20s, but towards my late 20s, I became a lot more stable and settled in my living arrangement. Just to pick up where we left off at on the last video. So this all took place on a Monday. So that Monday is basically when I got my bed at the shelter. Now, prior to me actually getting a bed at the shelter, the older lady and I had visited the shelter a couple of times, maybe about 2 or 3 times prior. We would visit just to, get a hot meal, just to get something to eat. But it was never us being actual residents. We were just what they call like day users. Fast forward to that Monday when everything goes down, when she left me stranded and all of the things, you guys. After going through orientation and after going to go get something to eat and going to go get clothing and everything, I finally get back to the shelter because there is a curfew. On this particular day, you guys, I was so emotionally distraught. I had gone through so much earlier in the day emotionally. I really did not want to be at a shelter. For those of you who've been kind of following the journey, some of you made recommendations that I go to a shelter, and my response was always, I don't feel safe. Shelters, in my experience, have always had a bad reputation. So it wasn't anything that I ever aspired to do or a place that I ever had on my bucket list to go. This is my first experience with homelessness to this degree. I would say in like early 2023, I was living in my car, but to this day, I still don't consider that homeless, because I actually had a roof over my head, and it's something that I would consider doing again. But this is my first time in a situation like this. So that particular day, I had gone through so much. And so I had to wait until late evening until I was gonna get my room assignment to see where I was gonna be and all of the things. So I sat in the common area, which is kind of like a cafeteria area where everybody usually sits. And I just had my head down the whole time. I was actually using my phone, but I really didn't want to be social. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want anybody talking to me. I just wanted to just disappear year, really, you guys. And again, I really didn't want to be there. I had realized at that point, though, that the Lord had placed me there for his reasons and purposes and plans. But you guys, I still did not want to be there. So the evening winds down, and then one of the staff members ends up escorting me to my room and to the place that I would be in. In this room, there's about 25 plus women. I was escorted to where my bed would be right beside me. There was a girl there, and she introduced herself to me. Actually, on my row, there were other people back there on my row, and they all introduced themselves to me. They were really nice, very welcoming, very hospitable. The girl who laid right beside me, she just was really kind, you guys, and she told me everything would be okay. And I'll just never forget how it made me feel and how I felt just that day and in the moment when she told me that everything would be all right. And when she told me that, you all, I believed it, and it just resonated with me so deeply, okay? And it was words that I really truly needed to hear. She was also telling me about some things that she had to do the next day, and she was inviting me to come with her. She had actually just gotten to the shelter the day before I did, so she was new as well, and we just instantly bonded and instantly clicked. And I'll always hold her near and dear to my heart, you guys. So that was that. So the next day comes, and her and I were basically together for most of the day. We were together for basically my entire first stint at the shelter. So when I initially got to the shelter, I was there for about a week and a half. During that time, I met a lot of people. I remember when I first got there, though, I felt so good, meaning especially the next day when I woke up, I had felt really, really, really good. I felt like I could breathe a little bit and kind of relax, exhale, if you will. And I just felt good, and it felt like school. It felt like college all over again, but in a different way. But it felt like college, and so it was a lot going on, you guys. This is the most male attention I have received in a long time, okay? In all humbleness, I always receive male attention, but this is the most male attention that I've received in a very, 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 very long time. So when I initially got there, I was emotionally distraught. As the days went by, a day or two, I was feeling better. I felt like I could exhale, but what was starting to happen was, as I would look around, right? So now I'm living there, I'm a resident. And so now I'm seeing what the environment entails and what's going on. And it was a lot going on. Not only did you have the homelessness there, but you also had the people who were struggling with a lot of mental issues. There is nowhere in the city for people to go who are struggling with mental issues. So that, coupled with homelessness, you kind of put all that together and you almost have a recipe for a disaster. But it was a lot of that there. And then I realized through just hearing people's testimonies and talking to different people that a lot of people there had been incarcerated. And a lot of the people who had been incarcerated said that it reminded them of being incarcerated. We had to eat at a certain time. The lights went off at a certain time. So yeah, they were saying how it reminded them of being incarcerated. In fact, this one girl came, and she had been incarcerated, but she came and she left the same exact, the next day, because she just couldn't take it, because it reminded her too much of being in prison. I've never been incarcerated before, but I did go to college, and it really reminded me of college, but just with a twist, okay? So yeah, you guys, it was just, I don't know, I would see the mental illness, I would see the way the staff would treat people as well, and it just pulled on my heartstrings, y'all. And I just started to feel like I couldn't do it. Like I had to get out of the environment, and that's what I did. A week and a half into being there, I decided to leave the place. I took an Uber and went straight to a hotel. And so that would explain the videos. If you all kind of go back on my channel, there are some videos where I said I'm living in a hotel for about 2 weeks. I was in a hotel living. What ended up happening after that was I had a dream that indicated that it was time for me to go back to the shelter. And so that's exactly what I did, y'all. I went back there, but the Lord had made it clear in that dream that I would only be there for a certain amount of time, but that I needed to go back. I went back to the shelter now. Remember the older lady I told you all that I was with for a week? Well, when everything happened that Monday when she left me stranded, I had not heard from her or seen her since then. When I went back to the shelter after being gone from the shelter for 2 weeks, I realized that she was now there. Now, mind you, this entire time, like once I got my bed at the shelter and she didn't, I had kept her in prayer. I was really praying for her because she was an older lady, you know, and I know she was having issues with her knees and her legs and her feet and everything. And I was praying for her because I wanted her to have somewhere to live, you know. Obviously, I knew living in a car for her wasn't good for long term, and I don't think it's good for anyone long term. I think it's good at some point to stretch out and, you know, lay in an actual bed. I believe all of us as humans, we need that at some point. But yeah, so I was keeping her in prayer. So when I saw her, I was a little anxious about that because she was now going to be my new roommate. I wanted her to know though that I had forgiven her, you know, that I wasn't angry with her or anything. So I did go up to her and I just spoke to her, and she cursed me out. She said, F you, you be, and I'll kill you. That's what she said to me, you guys. And I'm like, what? Like, oh my goodness, like I'm not even on that, you know, like I'm not even upset at her, you know, for the way things happen, because like I told you guys, I quickly realized that the Lord had allowed things and caused things to happen the way that it did so that I could be at the shelter, so that he could use me, you know, as needed. And speaking of God using me, that's exactly what he did, you guys. I found oftentimes people would just come up to me and start talking to me and telling me their stories, telling me their testimonies, telling me the things that they've gone through. I did a lot of, you know, spreading the gospel and ministering during that time. I did a lot of caregiving as well. I got sick. You guys saw when I made a video saying that I was hospitalized. I had strep throat, which I'm still recovering from. And also I got a stomach virus as well, y'all. The environment was so terrible. And I know I'm all over the place, but just follow me. The environment was very dirty. There was dust everywhere, which, you know, was an issue because with the strep throat and just with allergies in general, like just laying down, especially at night, it was very hard for me to do. It was very tough. It was very dusty in the showers. You know, you had mold and mildew. And then obviously I'm sharing the space with other women, and everybody's hygiene is so different. And if they have a hygiene routine at all, you know what I mean? And it was just so hard, y'all. One of the hardest things about the shelter for me was the fact that I never had much alone time. You know, it was always a social environment. Like, it was a lot going on socially. I found myself having to have conversations and talk to people, you know, and just not really having too much time alone. Even sometimes where I would go in the bathroom stall or the shower, which were the only two places that you could go where you would have time alone, sometimes people would still be talking to me, you guys. People would come to me a lot, especially new girls. Like, they would come to me with like concerns and questions. If they wanted to know certain processes or procedures, they would come to me and ask me, you guys. And I found myself being the mediator as well when there would be like arguments and stuff like that that would break out. And y'all, literally, although the shelter was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it really did bring out a lot that has always been in me that I was aware of, and some things I was unaware of. I used to consider myself a very passive person, and I can still be passive, but it was very difficult in the shelter to be passive because it was so much going on, and the things that were happening went against like my principles and morals and values. And there would be times where I would have to speak up and say something. Prior to that, I would speak up and say something, but it was just easier in my personal life and professional life to be passive because speak up for what? I didn't, have to. But being in an environment like this really just it pulled on my heartstrings, you guys, and it clothed me completely in humility. It was very humbling, and I just had so much compassion for the people there. I knew that I wasn't like the people there in terms of I knew that God had placed me here. I knew that God had placed me there in the shelter for his purposes and plans. And I never felt like I belonged there in the sense of this is where I'm supposed to be permanently. But I knew that was where the Lord had placed me so that I could be a light in a dark place. And prior to the whole homeless journey and, just me being in prayer up until leaving my apartment, my prayer was always to be a light in a dark place. In order for us to be a light in a dark place, you have to be in a dark place. And that place was very, very, very dark, very demonically influenced. It was a lot going on. A lot of people struggling with drug use, drug abuse. People were just going through their different situations and circumstances. A lot of people were struggling with legal troubles, family issues. Anything that you can think of, people were going through that in the shelter, you guys. So for me, it was really, really hard. And this was something that I was seeing constantly, day in and day out. It wasn't a break. There would be times where I would get a break, where I would go to church, because keep in mind, throughout this time of me being in the shelter, I'm still seeking the Lord, and the Lord is still making a way and opening up opportunities for me to seek him. So we would have Bible study. I was going to church, reading my Bible. I would talk about the Bible and talk about the Lord with people. I was ministering and spreading the good news and the gospel. And I was doing all of that, you guys, and just really, really, really motivating and inspiring people, and I'm grateful to God for that, because man, I was going through so much mentally, y'all, and emotionally and physically, because I was sick most of my time there. But God still used me, and I'm forever grateful that God found and continues to find value in me to use me in such a huge capacity. Even when you think that you can't go on, or even when you think that you are just slipping or just losing, you know what I mean, or drowning, so to speak, God will still use you and show you that, he is the one that keeps us. He's strong in our weakness. It was a lot going on. I've made some really great connections there, people to this day that I still talk to, connections that I'll always be grateful for. A couple of days ago, my time was up. So at the shelter, you have a certain amount of time you can be there, and then after that, you have to leave. My time came to an end, and it was bittersweet. I was ready. I found myself being ready to go. When the day came for me to leave, I was in tears. I was crying all morning, and the people that I had made connections with, they were crying, and it was a very emotional day for me. For anybody who is considering going to a shelter, whether it is a co-ed shelter or a men's shelter, whatever the case may be, I always say seek the Lord in everything that you do. And if he makes the way and the path straight for you to go to the shelter, then go to the shelter. Experience it for yourself. I'd always heard negative things about shelters. I was opposed to it from the start, but God showed me that he can even use the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. I think that's what he says. But he can use those things, the things that we run from, right? The undesirable circumstances, not only to grow us, but to expand his kingdom, because that is what it is about at the end of the day. I'm just forever grateful. I have a lot of gratitude. In that time, I was trying to find a job, but it just never worked out, y'all. And now, I don't know, the other day I had this, it's like a fire under the belly, kind of I really just, I'm like, ugh, I really want to work, you guys, but I know this doesn't make much sense to some people, but I know that the Lord doesn't want me to work, not in the way that I used to, not in the corporate setting. The Lord wants me to do his work. And so that is what I have a desire to do moving forward, you guys. Now I am living in a hotel. I just want to thank you all, though, for your kindness and for your generosity always. It's always appreciated. It's never required. I don't want anyone to feel obligated at all, because you are not. But I do just want to make it clear that I appreciate you all so much, because throughout this entire journey, God has allowed you all and caused you all to really donate and be there for me in ways that I could never imagine. I'm just so grateful. I'll forever be grateful for that. But my experience in this shelter was very humbling. I have no desire to go back ever again unless the Lord causes me or calls me to go back. But I have no desire to ever go back in that direction ever again a day in my life. But if so, I will surrender to the Lord, and I will allow him to use me in the capacity and the ways that he wants to use me in. That's really what I want this testimony to convey, and what it's all about. My channel, what it's all about. Allow the Lord to use you. Once you surrender your life to Christ, he's going to change you. You're going to shed skin. You're going to shed like dead weight, right? There are going to be a lot of things in your life that it may seem like you're losing, but you're not losing anything. You've gained the ultimate gift, which is eternal life. What God is doing, and this is what I realized in my own life, is that he's preparing you for the kingdom. The preparation part for the kingdom is going through that refining process. And if you are familiar with the refining process of gold, the impurities have to be burned off. And that is what I am continuing to go through. And that is what you are going to go through as well, or are going through now, and will continue to go through until the return of Jesus Christ. There are going to be some undesirable circumstances. God may call you to be homeless. He may cause you or allow you to be homeless so that you can be used by him in that season. God may cause you to lose your job. He may cause someone that you love to pass. There are going to be some unfortunate circumstances, some situations in your life that are going to happen that you have no desire to be a part of or experience. But please, please, please remember that God is sovereign and that he is there for you. He is there with you. And he draws near to the brokenhearted, and he's very, very present in our sufferings. And he knows exactly what we're going through and when we're going through it and why we're going through it. It's just important for you to continue to reach out to the Lord, pray, read the scriptures, seek the Lord in everything that you do. Seek God. And that is what has been helping me and helping me to survive in this season of my life. This has been one of the toughest things I've ever had to do in my life, besides, surrendering my life to Christ and burying my mom. This is the third most toughest thing I've ever had to do in my life, you guys. Just this journey, all of this, it's been very, very, very tough. God is good, God is gracious, and he has given me the grace that I need to live this life, and go through these situations and circumstances. So I hope this video will encourage someone. And that is what I hope that these videos are now. They are a bit sporadic because, like I told you guys in the last video, my life is unpredictable now. But at the end of the day, I just hope that when I do make videos and do put them out, that they are encouraging to you all. And it encourages you to continue to keep the Lord at the forefront of your life, at the center of your life. Continue to seek him in all that you do. And trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path and establish your footsteps. And even in those seasons of life where it feels like you're going downhill and things are not working out, God causes all things to work together for the good of those that love him, that are called according to his plan and purpose. He is always establishing and ordering your footsteps, okay? So don't forget that, and I love you all, and I'll see you soon.